She got that flavor. You know she got that flavor. That flavor. You know she got that flavor. Bria, she got that flavor. You know she got that flavor. That flavor.
Welcome to the show. You are listening to Flava. I am your host, Bria Cheri. We are live, baby, and it's all, I know I bring a lot of guests on the show. Like, we have so many guests that come on, but this one right here, this man, McKnight Jr., music royalty, has stepped onto the show to talk to me today. So I'm super excited, super honored. We got to give some claps because, this is a big deal, Welcome to the
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate that.
Of course, man. Man, we have a lot to talk about, so let's get it going.
Let's do it.
All right.
Let's do it. I'm ready.
Yeah. Okay. So now I know you've been doing music for a while, but let me take a little trip back. Like, how did you get started? I know your father is, legendary. So, how did that music get to your ear and make you say, I want to do this too?
Wow. I'll never get tired of saying that I was really, really fortunate and absolutely blessed to be born into such an incredible musical family, period. Mm-hmm. My mom's side, as well as my dad's side, are all some of the best singers, all some of the best songwriters and composers, I believe, of all time. And I was literally immersed in all of the best music in every genre. Mm-hmm. And I fell in love with it early. I think I was already putting my own little makeshift studios together at about 2 or 3 years old. As far back as I remember, anything my dad had just laying around the crib, chances are I was banging on it, and at the very least getting some noise out of it. And from there, you figure I was writing songs. I was getting in trouble already for writing songs in class in first grade and not paying attention. Mm-hmm. So, I started very, very early, man, very, very early. And I have so many, a lot of my earliest memories, period, are definitely triggered by music. I mean, I can remember as far back as legitimately maybe 1.5, 2 years old of either riding in the car with my grandparents or watching my dad work, watching my uncles work. So yeah, I had it coming at all angles. And my mom as well. I mean, my mom is probably my favorite female voice of all time. Her and my grandma, her mom as well. So, again, I'm just lucky. I was really thankful for this to definitely be what I was born to do, but to also be born directly into having so many incredible influences, man. I something you really can't pay for, I think, especially now.
Yeah. No, it's definitely hard because I was seeing on social media people talking about, how music, with schools, like, the budget isn't there. They cut a lot of the music programs. And so, like, to be in a family that already has that built-in foundation, like, that's dope,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and as someone who was a part of that last group of kids, I got to actually be a part of band, be a part of show choir, and all those things that at the time, you figure when I was in middle school, 2 years ago or whatever it was, there was still, hope. There was still push from the parents. There was still, those few teachers even that were willing to go against and work despite the money and despite the lack of support, that most systems give for the arts these days. And that's also something that I feel like with any bit of success that I'm fortunate to have now, the way I will always give back is to put in place, events at the very least that kids can come and learn how to make music, learn how to paint, whatever their art is. Find your outlet. That's what I teach all my mentorees. Even if it's not, artistic, find something that you can make artistic by just being as dedicated to becoming, incredible at it. Yeah. And that's something I definitely teach. So I teach my kids. So I'm teaching my son. He's finally grasping it at 8, I think. But kids, especially now, I'm trying to get that phone out of his hand.
I know.
That's the biggest challenge I see these days.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of kids, congratulations on the baby girl. I know.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I follow you on the gram. So
I love it. Thank you. Hey, my little island. She's out there asleep right now. Actually, I think she's asleep.
Okay.
I'm giving Daddy a break right now.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. She's it's my light right now.
Yeah.
A huge blessing, man. They all change you differently, but this one is super, super special.
Mm-hmm.
Super special for a lot of reasons. So definitely thankful she's here.
That's
Finally.
awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome. That leads to my next question of how do you balance being a father and then also pursuing the music? And I know as a musician myself, like it's time consuming, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You know, I think one of the biggest things that helps me, because it is hard. I tell everybody, I don't think there's ever a way to achieve a total balance at any of it, but the act of trying to achieve that balance, you'll find what works for you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's something that it took me a long time to learn, because you get focused on, just like in music, you try to perfect that balance. You try to, you know, it starts with scheduling, it starts with sacrifice,
Yes.
you know, all these things that you think and that you know you're supposed to do. You know, what I've learned works best for me personally is if I'm trying my best to, if I'm in a constant state of trying my best to make time for the things that I love, my kids naturally fall into that. Making music naturally follows into that. And then from there, you know, it becomes easier to divvy out that rest of that time to the things that matter.
Mm-hmm.
And what I noticed is in trying to control everything that matters, that's when the stress comes. That's when those surprise situations come out of nowhere, because, you know, the universe or the Lord or whatever you call it will test that resolve that you've got just to show you where you need to be paying a little bit more attention. And for me, when I've ever been in those moments, it's always come back to my family. So a father is number one for me. And the reason I'm able to be as there for my kids as I am is because I work so hard.
Okay.
And that I worked so hard when I was young. I put myself in a position as a young independent artist to be able to survive off of royalties, to be able to keep a steady pace with the clients I have when it comes to top lining or the things that I know that I can make that money I need to be able to make those decisions that are like, all right, you know, I can spend a few days in LA and then I can come spend a few days in Oceanside where my new little one is. And for me, it keeps me fresh. You know, I love being on the move. I love constantly, you know, changing my scenery. So you definitely also have to find the positives within your situation and pull from those as well. And these days I do my best to just align the things in my life so closely with what is truly in my heart so that I never feel like I'm doing something that's not working towards my goal of just being the best version of me, you know? And through that, everything else flourishes, you know, my music, my kids, my personal life. But it takes work, you know, it definitely takes work. But it can be done, I think. It can be done.
And you're proving it.
Yeah.
Now, I know that on social media you've been talking about you have a special announcement. Do you want to bless the listeners right now?
You know, yeah, actually. On top of all the incredible music releases I've got, the biggest one right now being my collaborative project with DJ Please. It's our first full-length album with my brother Please, man. We've dropped 3 or 4 singles this year already. The most recent being All to Myself, one of our classic R&B, dance, and just love songs. That's really what we do. But this album in itself is really the first time I've talked really about my mental state and being almost 33 years old now, and I've been working towards this dream of whatever making it is since I was maybe 11, and the pitfalls and all of that come with it, the self-doubt that comes with it. And it's no coincidence that as we worked on that, I finished my book, The Player's Handbook for Finding Happiness and Success. And all of these things have really led to where I'm at now. You figure maybe 2 weeks ago, I honestly haven't talked about this yet on social media, but maybe a month ago now, actually, someone broke into my rental car after a gig I did in LA and stole my rig. We're talking my laptop, my hard drives, everything, almost 20 years of work. The 3 or 4 albums that I've been working on, that I've been preparing for this huge rollout that I'm, you know, trying to salvage at this point,
I'm sorry.
Was taken from me. And it really put a lot into perspective for me in terms of, you know, not holding on and hoarding any more of this work and waiting for the perfect time to put it out. So leading to the announcement, it's like I've got 3 albums that I'm getting ready to release independently that are going to pretty much end the era, so to speak, of who Brian McKnight Jr. was before those things were stolen from me. And you'll only be able to get these albums from me. And I'm really, really thinking about doing it old school.
Brian McKnight Jr. is still in the building. How you doing?
We here. We are here. I said, chilling. We are chilling.
Exactly. So yeah, we were talking about your brand new project, Junior. Um, Man, and you were just talking about how you lost some of your previous work, and so with this project, you're trying to, not hold back anymore and just give the people the music.
Definitely, definitely. The Junior project is definitely a reintroduction, without a doubt, and it really leads into what I'm planning for, the end of the Brian McKnight Jr. era.
Right.
And like I was saying, I got these three albums coming that I think are, I mean, I would say one of the best R&B albums I've heard in a long time, like an actual R&B album. For people that claim that they want R&B, I'm not sugarcoating it at all. I think it's my ode to D'Angelo's How Does It Feel? It's my Joe, the things your man won't do. It gives me those vibes. That's one. The second one is the Hopeless Romantic album, which is my movie album. It's my songs of the key of life. It's everything that I do best is on this particular album, which I'm completely excited about as well. And the third in the trilogy will be The New Frontier, and that is it's my yacht rock album. You know what I mean? But these three albums are what I've been working on. I mean, for the last 10 years, really. And most of these projects were lost, and that's that theft. They stole these things from me. They don't even know my notebooks, everything. They have no idea what they've got. But it's definitely, I mean, these albums have been done for a long time as well. And that's the thing about it that was such a wake up call to me. It was like, man, you've been holding on to these gold mines. You've been holding on to these things that you love dearly. You got to let them go. So this has definitely forced me to do that. And I think the way that I'm doing that gives the opportunity for people that love music, that love, being a part of something that I feel like that could be historic. If you buy one of these limited edition items that will hold these albums in their only capacity, I mean, they won't be anywhere else. And if you are one of the lucky 300 or so people that buy one of these tapes or one of these vinyls or one of these CDs, you can definitely be a part of what I believe can be huge, because by the time I get to releasing them on all platforms, I would love for those first 300 investors to get percents of those royalties. I would love for them to act as those, and if you look at it, I think that's how that's exactly. And I see a lot of that happening now. I see a lot of these independent artists now doing that. And, the number one question I've always been asked all the time is like, what's your story? Which is interesting. It's always been interesting to me. Like they would have to ask me what my story is. But now, feeling like I finally have one, I totally get it. I've never thought that I was relatable. You know what I mean? I never thought that, coming from my family, coming from, not coming from the struggle, in the relatable sense and the societal sense of that, you know what I mean? I always, for myself personally, I never thought that anybody would care about what I was talking about. But this last year has definitely shown me that if you're staying true to yourself and if you're consistently putting out, your art, you'll find your audience. And I'll be out now. I see that robbery is coming as right on time, as maybe something that definitely needed to happen to be this final catalyst in, putting what I have to offer out there. And then what happens next, who knows? But I'm so glad that it's starting out with the Junior project between DJ Please and Knives, because I think it's the most palpable thing. If you've never heard anything from me, if you have no idea who Brian McKnight Jr. is, if this Junior album is your first introduction to me, it's a perfect segue into the three albums I've got coming later this year. So, it's that time. I would love for the fall into spring and the summer to become my seasons. And then once I drop that holiday album, it's going to be a full year thing. So I'm super excited, man, about everything happening.
Yeah, I'm excited. You got a lot on your plate.
Yeah, it's I'm fortunate. I'm one of those people that this is all all I have to do. I get to really do what I love. I get to wake up and make music. I get to wake up and be a dad, and I get to wake up and learn. And I've had so many mentors, both close and afar, that have given me a great sense of what to do and what not to do. What can happen if you take certain roads. And I'm such a sponge to life, period. I think that's one of the other things that could also be a crutch, because I'm always trying to learn as much as I can before I make a move. And what I'm realizing is you gotta be constantly making moves as well as learning, just like chess. So I'm super excited for what's to come. I'm super, super excited about next year. Um, I think it's going to be big, and not just for me, but I do see a bubble of sort of a revival coming. And especially for Black music, I really feel like with all the conversations about R&B, with all the conversations about the state of hip hop,
Mhm.
it's obvious that something needs to happen. I think that we need someone to come through and kind of burst this bubble and show everyone you don't have to be this, you don't have to cater to the same old storylines, we don't have to pander to the same old things. I know there's so many new stories, there's so many fresh stories and fresh takes on love and relationships and families now that you have. I mean, I think we're living in what could become the golden era of our music if we can, get past that surface level stuff that I think is people are finally getting tired of, to be honest. I mean,
Yeah.
everyone has kind of taken our music and ran with it. And I think that's kind of thrown us sort of for a loop for a little bit. But where I have found myself in a niche kind of category these last few years is I write country, I write a lot of pop. I top line for a lot of K-pop and a lot of J-pop. So I'm constantly hearing where the sound is
Mhm.
all around the world. And I want to do everything I can to bring a little bit more of this into those arenas, because I mean, they're singing our songs anyway, but that soul that people claim that they want back, that soul that people are talking about now that Diddy has started this new conversation. It's not really new, but he's definitely breathed a lot more life into it. I think there's a way that if it's going to take that next baby face, it's going to take that next Jonte Austin or whatever that next group of super producers,
Mhm.
super songwriters are going to do for these up and coming artists. And I would love to kind of lead that, because I mean, I've got all this musical knowledge up here that I try to cram into all this music I make for myself.
Yes.
Um, and I'm the hardest person in the world to impress. So sometimes that can, you know, it makes it hard.
I'm sure.
But I really look forward to whatever's coming now that I think, a lot more minds are opening up to the fact that R&B can be anything. R&B can be whatever you want it to be. It's simply rhythm and blues,
Exactly.
and that's something I definitely want to teach and be the spearhead for, kind of the pioneer for this next generation, without a doubt.
Yeah, you're on the right track. I mean, like I said, your pedigree speaks for itself. So,
Thank you.
yeah. But also, before we move to the next thing, like when is Junior coming out exactly?
Junior comes out, man, in the next week or two. I believe it's the 24th or the
Okay,
26th. It's one of those dates.
23rd ish.
It's right around there, whatever that Friday is. I keep getting confused on whenever that date, but it's coming up 2 weeks or so.
Okay.
But there would be plenty of promo, plenty of rollout for this one. I'm super excited to kind of become a TikToker, I guess, because that's what you got to do. But the beauty about this project is, again, I don't have to fake it. I don't have to create content. A lot of the things I say and a lot of the things I'm talking about on this album are things that I genuinely say, the things that I teach, the things that there's a huge inspirational, almost gospel side to this album, because a lot of it is me talking to God. It's a lot, I didn't even realize this to the other day. I myself had to listen to the album to transcribe all the lyrics. And it was right after all my stuff got stolen. And I was like, wow, this is actually kind of it's giving me hype. This is kind of getting me back. And I text DJ Please right then. And I was like, man, we really got something, because it's inspiring me. It's the first time that I had that listener experience beyond it being myself, to be like, you know what, man, you're right. I should probably, take another chance at faith, or take another, leap of faith, and just believe that this is what I'm here to do. This is what my purpose is. And no matter what happens, I mean, nothing's going to stop me from making music and giving this art away. The only thing that can stop me is me. And I'm completely removing myself from the equation at this point. And everyone should really prepare for the flood, I think, of music that's coming
It,
because it'll be nonstop.
they're ready. They're ready for sure. I
Yeah.
know. But when reading the background behind the making of this album, you talked about your connection with DJ Fields, and you mentioned that you guys weren't even in the same room for many years
Yeah.
making
Yeah.
making this music. So how does that work? Because I know when I'm in the studio, it sometimes can be better to be in the same room. But
Yeah.
yeah.
The beauty of this, DJ Please and I, we met on this website called soundbetter.com where it's sort of like LinkedIn but for music. People can hire you to top line or whatever it is they need. And it came at a time for me where I really really needed that, and he was literally one of my first 5 clients, and we ended up building a rapport. I think every single song he's ever asked me to write for him, we have released. They
Mhm.
have become projects. They have become, really what this album is. I think this album, like I said, is truly the culmination of the last 3 or 4 years of us just kind of grinding it out. And he's in San Francisco. I've been in LA predominantly, but I've recorded these songs all over the world. You know what I mean? Which is interesting, but we still have yet to work together. And I attribute it to a lot to where, I mean, I don't toot my horn about a lot of things, but I can really write a song. I can really write anytime, anywhere. My channel is always open, and I don't need a lot of people in the room.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? One of the first things my dad, David Foster, Quincy, one of these dudes told me, they were like, if you don't have to write a song in a room full of people, try your best not to.
Right.
Because not for a greedy thing, and this is even what Foster told me. He was like, it's not a greed thing, but you're more prone to trust your first instinct if you don't have anyone to ask and bounce ideas off for when you're working through the idea.
Mhm.
So a lot of the things that you hear on my records are what I came with right in that moment. Not that I don't go back and proofread, but as a top liner, man, I can finish 4 or 5 jobs a day because I love it. I love, that's when I get in that zone, I've run off 7 or 8 jams in a day. Um,
That's great.
and working with someone like Please is that way as a producer. Please will get excited when he knows I'm in the zone, and those jobs will keep coming. There'll be 2 or 3 or 4 in a week, and then we'll look up and we'll say, well, man, we've got an EP. Let's just drop this music. And he's been such an incredible inspiration for me to do that. That kind of, it's no coincidence that our projects always come at a time where I need to get out of my own head. This one being the catalyst, which is again really interesting to me because it's our first full length 10 to 12 track album. All these other ones have been 3 to 4 track EPs where we've kind of played with it. They always had a theme, but in the in the course of writing these particular jobs he was sending to me, even he began to realize that I was formulating this story.
Mhm.
And like I told him, a lot of the reason why I made these last couple jobs that he had me do more personal is because of all the work that he was putting in. All the things that he's done for me. It was like, all right, I've written all these love songs. Everyone knows I can do that. Let me give you this real, because I rap as well, and I think this Junior album is another really perfect. It's a great representation of everything that I can do when I'm not producing. This is me as a singer, songwriter, and a rapper, blending all these things together while working in collaboration with someone that I truly enjoy working with. And this is what I feel like is both of our calling cards to the rest of the industry. Like, if y'all want this, you know who to call. And there's only 2 names on that rider. You don't got to worry about chopping up those percents to 12 or 14 different people. You can just come over here to care about the sound and we'll hook you up. Um, so again, all that leads into why I'm really, really so excited for everyone to dive into this album. It's mixed by our boy, mixed by Maddie. He's worked on every project he's done for us. So we've developed this cohesive sound, this cohesive blend of what we do. And it's just been incredible to watch it grow organically over the last few years to where, yeah, we still have yet to be in the studio together. And we joke about all the time how we should just go get an Airbnb or something one of these weekends and finally just do it. And I really look forward to that because once we are in the same room, chances are we'll finish 2 or 3 albums because, it'll only enhance the synergy that we already have to be in, the room together. So
Yeah.
shout out to my boy, DJ Please, man. Huge inspiration, huge big brother to me that it's just, there's so many incredible words I could say about him and his family, man. They are just incredible. So I love him. That's my brother right there.
Man, much respect, man. You guys got your own super team. You just
Yeah, yeah,
love, yeah,
yeah, we really do.
yeah. Well, for one thing, you talk about, the musical history that you have ingrained into you, but how did you go about carving your own path and just saying, this is me, this, that's my father, that's my mom, but this is me. Like, how did you really identify with who you were?
It has a lot to do with the both of them, my mother and my father. I knew very early that I was going to have to be different than my dad. Like, I mean, I knew that. I sound like him, I look like him. There's no getting away from it.
Right.
And that's what really led me to. I mean, it didn't lead me to writing country. It didn't lead me to doing rock, but it definitely helped in my decisions to be in like, I'm going to go those routes. I'm going to make sure I'm as, diverse as I can be as a songwriter and a producer, first and foremost, so that I can work with everybody. I can vocal produce for anybody, and just be that guy in the studio that, can bring the sauce.
Right.
So when it comes to me as an artist, the hardest thing has definitely been crafting out what is my sound, which, everyone struggles with. But for me, it's, I think, 100 times harder because I can do so many things. I channel so many different genres at once. Um, that's why the Hopeless Romantic album that's within this first trilogy of albums that I'm going to be releasing is really what I think my sound is. It's huge, cinematic, and it is R&B and pop, but it's not Harry Styles, just to be honest. You know what I mean? I think it's what could rival that. And I say rival not in the actual rival sense, but it would be nice to see someone like us up there with those guys that doesn't have to necessarily sing songs like The Weeknd. You
Right.
know what I mean? And these are all my biggest inspirations. I'm huge fans of all these dudes, and I think even I miss there being a male crooner, but that could also get up there and dance. That could also sit down and play an instrument. That could also come out and be in the crowd with the people. I feel like that's what we are missing from our culture right now. Usher is the closest thing that we've got. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean? And I love Usher, but there does still seem to be a sense of having to keep up with these young boys.
Yeah.
And I genuinely don't know how to do that. You know what I mean? And I think it's because, I mean, we really don't have a good focal point right now of who's actually doing that. I mean, Bruno and Anderson are the closest, I
Hmm.
think, in my heart. But even they still had to pull so much from one certain era. You know what I mean? I'm like, there's a lot of 70s in there, there's a lot of 80s in there.
I'm
I'm
looking.
like,
I'm looking.
who's going to give us that fresh, who's going to give us that futuristic sound,
Mhm.
that'll then trickle down and inspire, a few of these other artists to kind of push the envelope a little bit. I love Steve Lacy. I think he's doing a major thing, as a guitar player and as a producer and mostly instrumentalist. His live show is incredible. So there are sparks of it, and I would love to become one of those people that can cultivate. I would love to be that Stevie of our generation, honestly, because even though he's still with us, we miss him. I think we miss the output that he had, not just as Stevie, but I mean, he wrote for everybody. And I don't think a lot of people even realize how many hit songs are on the radio still that Stevie was a part of. And I think, I would love, and I definitely see myself stepping into that role for our generation of just being like the OG on the set from the jump,
Right.
that people know they can trust me. That's the one thing my name does do for me at this point is people know I know what I'm talking about at the very least when it comes to this music stuff. How could I not? And then what I'm able to do the talent and the skill that I've cultivated on my own is what sets me apart.
Mhm.
And that's something I'm definitely not shy about. Honestly, I've really been fortunate enough to I grew up around the best of the best. I mean, from when I was 5 years old till about 27, I was surrounded by everybody you can imagine, my brother included, which is why my brother is my favorite artist of all time, because he's the best at everything. Like, he's literally everything he touches turns to gold. And he's actually dropping his album October 16th on his birthday next month. And I, as a fan, as his number one fan, who's been begging him to drop music for the last 10 years, couldn't be more excited. Um, and also having him, my younger brother, man, is probably my biggest influence period as an artist.
Mhm.
Um, because his IQ is just through the roof. It's through the roof because he's got my IQ, but he's also a lot more lenient on the radio. He's a lot more lenient on this modern music than I am. So he's got the best of both those worlds. And I tell him that all the time. I'm like, man, I don't think there's anyone walking this earth that has a musical IQ like my bro, and then is able to translate that into his own music.
Wow.
Um, so all of that has always it's been such a major blessing to just grow up in this hub of a constant creation. Um, and that's definitely something that's helped me continue to separate myself from what my dad's legacy is. I tell people all the time, I'm like, he's still my favorite singer songwriter
Mhm.
and performer. I still don't think there's anyone touching my dad. I don't think there's a male singer out there touching my dad still, but me, to keep it OG. Because I don't know. I don't think we can name someone who is singing, writing, producing, and then going and performing his own music at this point. A lot of people don't realize my dad was producing those albums, making those beats, playing all the instruments, stacking all those layers himself. No vocal producers, no vocal coaches, none of that shit that you see now that everyone else is doing. And I was the person that was in there watching this and get like, yeah, man, this is
He's the
this
one.
is what I want to do. And if I could tell my dad that I think even his generation of artists needs someone like me who can tell them, listen, y'all were the best. Y'all are the best. My dad, Babyface, that upper echelon group of the dudes that were writing and producing and also performers themselves deserve their flowers, and we don't talk about them enough. I still don't think they get enough of the credit. If you notice, JD, a
Yep.
lot of the early 2000s dudes get all the credit for all the music, and I'm just like, did we forget Lionel Richie is still here and is
Mhm.
probably the one of the most prolific songwriters of all time. Um, so all of that is the inspiration, even still, that comes behind me wanting to be the best. I want to be the best singer songwriter of all time and producer. I want to help so many of the next generations of young artists get back to singing those big ballads like Celine, get back to singing those "Tell Me Something Good" jams that we all claim to love so much, but we don't hear none of
Oh, yeah.
that. So I'm super excited about this newfound fire I've kind of got in my chest now after having all my stuff stolen, to kind of be like, nah, man, I have to remember who I dreamed about being when I was 11,
Right.
and just take that time to focus, get back into that routine we were talking about of maintaining that balance, keeping that streak of, waking up and just taking advantage of every single day that we've got here to continue to, chisel away at being the best that we can be.
Yeah, man.
Um,
Push the
that's
culture
it.
forward. Push the culture.
Gotta do it.
Yeah.
Gotta do it. Gotta
And
do it.
that leads me to I want to play for the people your latest single, All to Myself. And
Awesome. Yeah.
yeah, so can we talk about the making of that? Like how did that process come with DJ? Please.
It's interesting actually, 'cause this particular song came to me in a flash. Honestly, it was one of those joints where I think I had done two other demos that day. Um, and Please sent this to me, and from the jump, I was like, "Oh, I already know where I'm taking this." And it's such an homage to early 2000, not even R&B. It's like the songs you would hear at the bowling alley, those super dance records, but that had those killer melodies.
Mhm.
Sort of like that. There's a song called "Sexual." This can't be one dimensional. The way I feel is sexual. The way I feel is sexual. Those kind of jams, those Daft Punk songs. If you listen to All to Myself, that hook and even the verses specifically in All to Myself are such a rip off of that time because I love those jams so much. And you don't hear those kinds of melodies over this type of beat. Those super pop, super spacey, and almost cinematic verses like Spice Girl style, sung by a male singer. So that's really what All to Myself is. It's a love, it's a yearning, longing song that you can dance to, about wanting to keep someone all to yourself. That's really it.
Okay, well, with that being said, we're going to jump right into it. Brian McKnight Jr. here with me on Flava All to Myself. Let's get it. We are chilling right now with Brian McKnight Jr. We just got done playing his latest single, All to Myself. And yeah, like you were saying, the song is beautiful. The production is
Thank you.
beautiful. Yes.
Thank
Yes. Like we've been talking so much. I've been
you.
enjoying it.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. So shows. Now I know you said you're in the process right now configuring a band and getting all the sonics together, but what are you envisioning for your performances in the new year?
Man, I really want my shows to feel big, whether I'm in a club, whether I'm in an amphitheater, or eventually whether I'm in an arena. It's always been my dream to be able to scale from an 88 piece orchestra plus band down to, a nice three-piece couple violinists. And that's really what it's going to take, I think, for the type of music that I think I'll be known for to translate. To the audience, I think is going to like my music. They're going to want to hear everything they hear on these records.
Yeah.
And I love producing strings. I love producing horns. And I know that I really write songs that should be in movies. So I've always tried to, I'm a huge John Williams fan. I'm a huge James Horner fan, rest in peace. So a lot of my productions and orchestrations can usually double as movie scores in a sense. If you take my lyrics off, they'll still tell a story. So all of that are we're going into even my stage setup. I want to be a focal point, obviously, but I definitely want you to, admire the players that I plan on having behind me because, they're going to really be bringing what I do to life. And I want people to really see. I want to give them, something spectacular, almost carnival-esque, in the sense of you don't know what's gonna happen, but
It's
it's gonna be great. You know, that's really it. I love lights. I've waited for projects that I felt would be worthy of the ideas I've always had for touring and watching some of these tours now. I mean, Bad Bunny's tour, The Weeknd's tour, seeing the stage setup, seeing the capability now of these arenas. It's just like, these are the things I've had in my notebook since I was like 19 years old. So even that in itself is so exciting in the sense of, the sky is really the limit. And I want my music to reflect that.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Oh no, you froze again. Oh Lord. You there? You We're still here.
We're here. I think we made it. But
Yes.
yeah, I want them to be huge. I want them to be really big. I I think I will go down as having one of the best bands ever. I feel like that's what I want. I want to have the rotation worldwide of the best musicians, the best instrumentalists that want to play on my show. Because I will always big up my band. I will always take care of my bands, and they will end up becoming more of who people come to see than me. I would love to just become the character.
Yeah.
I would love to be able to just completely immerse myself in whatever show, whatever place we're in at that time, as to give the best show ever. That's I got to watch my dad again, who is still I don't think anyone's touching him live just because of all that he could do in one show and still keep the people in the palm of his hand.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I love Adele. I love a lot of the artists that are at the top, but I don't know, man. I can't name someone right now other than her. I'll give it to her. Her will give you a couple instruments in her show. She'll give you a solo. She can sing. She's gonna sing her ass off every time. Um,
but we only got one.
We need
Crazy to me.
more. We need more. Thank you.
But they're coming. I believe they're coming.
Yeah.
And I'm super excited. You know, a lot of new lanes are opening, and I think it was Drake who said when he even before he became Drake, it was like I really want to show people what can be done. I want people to look back at whatever Brian McKnight Jr. becomes and say, man, he did it. I can do that. I want to do that. I want to take that. Even he had 88 pieces. I want 160 pieces up there with me. That's what I want to inspire. Go big. Go big. You know, go big so you don't have to go home. That's what I say. You know.
That's the perfect advice right there. Go big.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why not?
For the people that are not tapped in with you, how can they get in touch with you?
Well, if you want to find me, if you want to listen to me, I am literally Brian McKnight Jr. across the board at Brian McKnight Jr. wherever people can be found. That's me. And you can rest assured that if you get a response, if you get a reply, if you get any of that, it's definitely me. There are no bots on my side. I run all my accounts. And I love engaging, never, I always tell people, never hesitate to say something to me because chances are I'll respond. I love that connection, that instant connection that social media does give us. I know it can be crazy at times, but again, I want to be one of those artists that people, when they see me out, know that they can come up as long as you respect, as long as it's respectful.
Of course, yes.
I am here. I can be touched. It's like one of the things I learned from my dad because he was not one of those people. He was, which I can understand. But I am so much of a people pleaser, and I love people. I love being in the crowd. I love, I'm just like, reach out to me, man, because I'm here. For sure.
Sure. Man, Brian, it's been a pleasure having you on the show.
Likewise.
I can't wait to listen to the full album and just vibe out to it.
Nice. It's coming. It's coming.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for having me. It was beautiful. This was great.
Thank
you. Great.
Thank you. You're always welcome to come back on the show whenever you like, anytime.
We'll do for sure.
Yes. Is there anyone that you want to shout out real quick, show some love?
Definitely want to shout out DJ Please, man, my brother Matt. Thank you so much. He's my big brother, the big brother I never had. You know what I mean? And a lot of what I'm doing now, I wouldn't be doing if it wasn't for the consistency that he's constantly pushing me to keep up. So that's my man. That's my brother right there.
Okay. Right, Brian. You take care and have
a
great rest of your day.
We'll talk. You too. Be safe out there.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
You got it. Peace.